Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Well, lots of local news for you tonight. Duluth in the future may become Minnesota's steel manufacturing center, serving the entire upper Midwest area. At least that's the opinion advanced here tonight by James W. Clark of St. Paul, Commissioner of the State Department of Business, Research, and Development. Clark said his office was very interested in either construction of a new Duluth steel plant or the expansion of the present one, operated by the American Steel and Wire Company at Morgan Park. The proposal is one of a number of industrial projects under study by his department, he explained. Vern E. Joslin of St. Paul today was elected president of the Northern Great Lakes Area Council during a summer conference being held in Hotel Spaulding here. Joslin, director of the Minnesota Division of Publicity, replaces William Palmer of Lansing, Michigan as head of the group to promote the national resources of the Northern Great Lakes region. Joseph Alexander of Madison, supervisor of recreational publicity, Wisconsin Department of Conservation, was elected vice president, as was Webb McCall of Mount Pleasant, Michigan. Well, another sultry blast is on tap. Not quite as warm, we're glad to hear, as yesterday or for today for the Lakehead region tomorrow. Another sultry blast, not quite as warm as today. That's what's in store for us tomorrow, as much of the nation prepares likewise to swelter for the second straight day in the year's hottest temperatures. The Twin Ports region today recorded its all-time high mark for the date with a top reading of 94 degrees. It ties for first place as the warmest day this year with July 5th, according to the Duluth Weather Bureau. The runner-up day was a 91-degree scorcher back in June. Although tomorrow's forecast here also calls for widely scattered thunder showers, U.S. meteorologists in Chicago offer no hope for cooling relief earlier than the weekend. The soonest, Thursday or Friday, the Associated Press said. The low mark at the Lakehead today was 65 degrees. Normal is 61. A year ago to date, the high was 80 degrees. It was warm. The torrid wave today blanketed the nation from the Rockies all the way to the Appalachians, roasting the mercury to 100 degrees or over highs in many areas. The nation's contrasts were experienced by Blythe, California, where the mercury soared to 108, and by Ely, Nevada, where the mercury dropped to 1 degree above freezing. Chicago recorded its highest temperatures of the year with 98 degrees. Other temperature high todays were 102 at La Crosse, Wisconsin, 101 at Elkader, Iowa, 100 at Blowing Rock, Wisconsin, 98 at St. Louis, Ottumwa and Waterloo, Iowa, and 97 at Des Moines and Mason City, Iowa. One heat casualty in Duluth today was Jack Hackley, 60, of Route 3, Box 704, who collapsed about 11 this morning while working on a sidewalk construction project at 57th Avenue West and Grand Avenue. He was released after treatment at St. Mary's Hospital. So that forecast again, more warm, not quite as warm, scattered thunder showers. The high today, 94, low 65. It's 78 downtown right now. The Duluth Chamber of Commerce Legislation and Taxation Committee has recommended approval of the proposed Duluth Teachers Retirement Fund Association if certain modifications are made, according to R.B. Morris, the Chamber Executive Secretary. Following a subcommittee study of the proposal, the committee suggested this modification, that the annuity payable to any teacher shall not exceed the annuity which the teacher's accumulated contributions, plus the same amount from tax funds, will be at the time of retirement, and in no event shall the annuity from tax funds exceed $900. The proposal is still under study by the Duluth City Council, which must approve the plan before it can go into effect. Well, it won't be long now. An estimated 22,000 Duluth students will return to school this fall, the first of them by September 7th. The bulk of students will enter Duluth public schools, where more than 16,000 are expected to study this fall and winter. Public school teachers have been ordered to report for conferences September 7th. All classes open the following day. The University of Minnesota Duluth branch will begin classes September 27th. According to Dr. Raymond C. Gibson, Provo, registration opens September 13th and will continue through the 24th. Freshman registration at the College of St. Scholastica has been scheduled for the 21st of September. Upper class students register the following day. School sessions will be resumed September 24th. Duluth parochial schools, including Cathedral High and St. Jean Baptiste, will begin instructions on September 7th. The Reverend Father Michael Hogan, school superintendent, said the expected enrollment will be between 2,900 and 3,000 students. Stanbrook Hall officials have slated September 3rd and 4th for registration, with school opening the 7th of September. District judges of St. Louis County will meet next Tuesday to pass on the qualifications of William Eddy of Virginia, a political figure and new appointee by county commissioners to the County Welfare Board. District Judge Mark Nolan said today the procedure is required by law in the case of a welfare appointment, with the county board making the nomination, county officials said. Under the statute, a majority of the judges must approve the appointment. Judges convened in Duluth today on the appointment, but decided to delay action until a full panel could be present. Judge Victor Johnson, is on vacation. Eddy was named in a series of ballots by commissioners to succeed John D. Lynchy, also of Virginia. Bertha J. Wellington, 49, of Nopenning, escaped serious injury this afternoon when the car she was driving went out of control in 8th Avenue East and finally came to a stop after plunging through a heavy mesh wire fence and an iron gate of the fence. Police said the car brakes apparently failed at 5th Street. Gaining speed as she approached 1st Street, the woman drove the car along the sidewalk, then turned into the fence. The car tore up about 30 to 40 feet of the fence, enclosing a used car lot owned by Economy Supplies. The machine narrowly missed a string of parked trucks. The vehicle then knocked over a heavy iron gate on the fence, coming to a stop in the alley, the rear door of Lakeland Motors at 749 East Superior Street. Although the marriage license business began booming in some localities right after the Selective Service Act became law, Douglas County records show no increase in weddings, at least to beat the draft. When the nation's youths between the ages of 18 and 25 begin registrations on Monday, Douglas County males will trek to the National Building, 921 Tower Avenue, where Draft Board number 17 has set up offices. By presidential order, husbands, fathers, and persons having dependents will be deferred, although no ruling has been made on how long a person must be in that classification to merit exemption. The first day of registration in Superior will find youth born in 1922 after August 30th registering on Monday. Others will register on assigned dates until the 18th of September. By law, the draft cannot start until September 22nd, 90 days after the act became law. Miss Margaret Hurley has been named clerk of the Douglas County Board, which is headed by Chairman Clarence Erlinson. Other members are Norman F. Olson, Harris Jennings, L.R. Duplays, and Lyle Downey. Nowhere do golf tournaments get more accurate and complete coverage than in the Arrowhead, where the Duluth News-Tribune has trained sports writers at every event to bring stories of these competitions to its readers. Every day after qualifying rounds, there are starting times, pairings, and accounts of the day's play that leave no questions unanswered. Follow the fortunes of your favorite golfers in the Duluth News-Tribune. Well, most of the Superior news tonight is pretty much court news. 2 men today were ordered bound over to Superior Court for trial when they waived examination in Superior's municipal court. Arraignments on separate charges. Thorwald L. Thurston, 33 of South Range, charged with operating a motor vehicle without the owner's consent, was committed to Douglas County Jail in lieu of bail set at $300. He was arrested by Undersheriff Elton Eckroth. Gus Fortas, an 18-year-old transient, arrested in Duluth at the request of Superior's police, was lodged in the county jail when he failed to post $500 bail set by Municipal Judge Claude Cooper on a charge of attempted burglary in the nighttime. This youth was charged with being one of a trio which attempted the break-in at a gasoline station at Grand and Belknap Street early Friday morning. Arrested earlier and awaiting Superior Court trial on the charge are 2 other youths, James R. Johnson, 19 of Minneapolis, and a 16-year-old from Libertyville, Illinois. Charged with pointing a pistol at another person, Daniel Thibodeau, 32 of Milwaukee. Today was fined $50 in Superior's municipal court when he pleaded guilty before Judge Claude Cooper. Police said Thibodeau was arrested on complaint of James Ryan of Duluth. Down at St. Paul, Governor Youngdahl today said he would speak at a Labor Day celebration in Faribault if those arranging the event give him a written invitation. The governor's request comes after a move by slot machine interests who sought to keep him off the program. An official of the Faribault celebration said the slot machine men asked that the governor's appearance be canceled. However, according to this official, the men offered to make up any cost involved in re-advertising the event to put it over without Governor Youngdahl. The official is Jesse Allard, general chairman of the festivities. Allard refused to call off Youngdahl's appearance, but a letter was written and mailed out saying the governor would not be on the program. It was signed by two men identified with the Central Labor Union and the Rice County Democratic Farmer Labor Party. After the letter, Allard said he still hoped the governor would appear. It was then Governor Youngdahl requested a written invitation. Other speakers in the program will be Mayor Hubert Humphreys of Minneapolis, Attorney General Burnquist, and Secretary of Agriculture Charles Brannan. Down at St. Paul, Northwest Airlines today announced a domestic fare increase of 2%, effective the 1st of September. The rate boost was filed today with the Civil Aeronautics Board. One official said the new charges would raise Northwest rates to the new level of the air industry. Here's a bulletin from the Associated Press, London. The Moscow radio says the Soviet government has decided, and we quote here, to close immediately both Soviet consulates in the United States, in New York and San Francisco. It called the action a result of the Kozienkina case. We'll repeat this bulletin. The Moscow radio is quoted out of London tonight as saying they shall close immediately both Soviet consulates in the United States, in New York and San Francisco. It called the action a result of the Kozienkina case. Over at Detroit, the Bureau of Labor Statistics Cost of Living Index reached a new record high in July. And General Motors employees received a 3-cent hourly pay increase today, since the pay of GM employees follows the fluctuations of the index. The directors of GM's Department of the CIO Auto Workers say GM workers welcome the increase, but they're not kidding themselves as to its true significance. T.A. Johnston says the workers know that although there will be more money in their pay envelopes, it will not buy more at the corner store. Down in the nation's capital, the White House says President Truman will reach Yorktown, Virginia by noon tomorrow. Secretary of Defense Forrestal has commented on the secret meeting of the Joint Chiefs of Staff at Newport, Rhode Island last weekend. Forrestal says that decisions reached reflect neither a victory for the Air Force nor a defeat for the Navy. What was done, he says, was to clarify the position of the Air Force and the Navy in the field of strategic air warfare. The House Un-American Activities Committee announces they expect to nab a prize witness Monday. He is one J. Peters, who's been called the leader of a pre-war communist underground in the United States. Peters has been sought for a long time. The committee was informed today that Peters is due Monday at deportation proceedings in New York City. Acting Chairman Carl Munt says a subpoena will be served Peters on Monday if he shows up. Frankfurt, Germany. 4 Americans died today in the flaming wreckage of 2 C-47 transports, which collided in the air near Frankfurt. The planes were returning from airlift flights to Berlin. Down at Florence, Italy, headquarters of the pro-fascist Italian social movement has been heavily damaged by a bomb explosion. There were no reported casualties. In Berlin, the Russians appear to have given up their series of raids in the western sectors of Berlin, and the tension in the blockaded city is said to have eased up. Birmingham, England, a 5-day strike of 16,000 Austin motor car employees has been settled. Austin sells much of its output here in the United States. And down at Fort Wayne, Indiana, in this country, the federal judge says attorneys for the National Labor Relations Board have asked him to the AFL International Typographical Union for contempt of court, asked him to cite the union. The charge is violation of an injunction the judge, Luther Swigert, issued against the union last March. At Los Alamos, New Mexico, workers have agreed to accept a union settlement of a labor dispute at the Los Alamos Atomic Project. Union leaders estimate at least 90% of the 3,500 workers who have been on strike will return to their jobs tomorrow morning. And down in Chicago, the International Harvester Company, strike-bound in 6 cities, plans to lay off employees in other plants. In Louisville, 1,500 workers will be laid off Friday if the strike by the CIO United Auto Workers is not settled. Lack of parts is given as the reason. And down at St. Paul, a man who simply couldn't handle money was arrested today shortly after the $800 robbery of a ticket seller at the Minnesota State Fair. Arrested at a St. Paul hotel was 31-year-old Robert Wright, also an employee of the State Fair. Wright was taken into custody after offering $30 for a round-trip ride to Minneapolis. At the same time, he dropped $600 in cash on the hotel floor. Earlier today, James Beach of Tulsa told policemen $800 had been taken from his money belt. Wright said he'd been drinking and could not remember everything, but confessed taking the money from his fellow worker. St. Paul police said that he will face larceny charges tomorrow. Yes, a man who just couldn't handle money. That brings us up to date on the news. It's complete news that will be found in tomorrow morning's issue of your complete newspaper, the Duluth News Tribune. Look to tomorrow morning's issue of the Trib. As usual, it's Jim Payton reporting. Thank you once more for listening, and good night.